Hey, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I will be showing y'all how I took in my faja to make it tighter, so that way I didn't have to keep buying new ones. So let's get started. All right, so right here, I'm just showing y'all what it looks like after I had already previously took in this faja. This is my old stitching, so I'm going to undo this old stitching and then redo the stitching, so that way you guys can see how I did this. This particular stitching I did where there was a flap left over, so your flap was on the outside. So the new way that I'm going to stitch it, the flap is going to be on the inside. You want to be careful to stay out of this area, the area where your waist cinches in at. You don't want any thread close to that area. You want to always keep your stitching close to your hooks and close to wherever your faja is clasping at. You want to keep the stitching close up in that area. You don't want to go outside that area. You don't want to go below this clasping area, or you don't want to go above it. If you start going to the sides where your waist cinches in at, you are really going to mess up your faja, and it's going to be looking and feeling real crappy on you when you put it on. So I just wanted to make that clear. So I'm going to be using weaving thread that you use for sewing, simply because it's thicker and sturdier, and also a weaving sew-in needle. It works better if you really have a sturdy faja. This is going to be your best solution, because regular needle and thread is not going to be sturdy enough to stay and hold. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and thread this needle so that we can go ahead and get the stitching started. Yeah, regular needle and thread is not going to work. It's not going to be sturdy enough. It's just going to pop right back open. I found that this thread was so much stronger, like I said, but you have to make sure you have a really good sturdy material on your faja in order for that to work well. You don't want to be using this kind of thread on no flimsy faja, because it's probably going to rip it open. All right, so right now I'm going to go ahead and undo the old stitching. And I'm just using regular bandage scissors that I got from work. I find this easier to use because it digs off into the stitches and lifts them up as you're cutting. So I found that to be very helpful. So I'm just going to undo all the old stitching. And again, like I said, my first stitching, I did it where the fold was on the outside, but this stitching I'm going to do where the fold is on the inside, so you can't see the fold. So I'm just pulling all that old stitching apart. Then I'm going to take it all off, all that old thread. All right, so now that we got that all off in a clean slate, I'm just showing you where my hooks are. Again, you want to stay out of the cinching area of your waist. You don't want to go over in that area. You don't want to go below the area of where your faja or your garment clasp at. You don't want to go in the leg area. You don't want to go up in the bra area, because this is going to make your faja really messed up. If you do that, it ain't going to fit right, and it's going to be riding up in you and all that kind of stuff, and we don't want that. So stay in the clasp area. So what I'm doing is what I did the first time I stitched it. I pinched it up. So that's what you do. You figure out how much you want to take in, and you just pinch it up. And so you can do as much as you want, as long as you stay out of those areas that I showed you not to go into with your threading. So the first time I stitched this, I stitched it with the flap out. So this time I'm going to fold it inside out and stitch it to where my flap is in the inside. I hope this makes sense. All right, so I've already started my stitching. So the stitching that I'm doing is I'm just going in and back out, in, back out, in, back out, in, and back out. And I do this in a line just to make sure there's no gaps or spaces in between each stitch. In between each stitch. And like I said, I am not a professional. I'm not a seamstress. I don't know nothing about sewing no garments. All I'm showing y'all is what I did that worked for me. I was not about to pay no $100 to get this garment taken in when I wasn't going to be using it for a long time, and I was not going to waste money on steadily buying more and more smaller and smaller fajas. I just thought that was ridiculous. So my stitching looks ugly, but it works. It works for me. All right, so as you can see how it's seamless there, and then the flap is on the inside now instead of on the outside like my old stitch was. Yeah, so all right, so it looks, and that's the other way that you can do it overhand. So I just did it 2 different ways just so you can guys to see the difference between the stitches showing and the stitches not showing, or the stitches on top and then the flap in the inside. All right, so I want you to see how that waist goes in each time I set my hooks going forward. See that? That waist moves in even tighter. It's gonna move in even tighter. Even tighter. And even tighter. So that's how I know I have did what I needed to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and back stitch it so that way it doesn't come loose. And to back stitch it, you just go back the other direction a few more times before you tie and knot off the thread. All right, now let's put this bad boy on. Now, before I restitched and put in new stitches, I could easily get over to my last row of hooks with no problem, comfortably. I even had so much room. But now, as you can see, I cannot get over to my last row of hooks. I'm getting over to the row just before the last row, and I am legit struggling, like struggling. So that's how I know it's, I pulled it in really good and really tight. Because like I said before, I was getting to that last hook, that last row of hook, and I was getting to it comfortably. It was like putting on a t-shirt. But now it's just like I had to take breaks, which that's probably bad, but I mean, that's the whole point of a compression garment, is to compress. So yeah, it was out. Yeah. So this is how I know I did a good job with measuring the amount of tightness that I wanted, because I'm struggling to get that thing going when I wasn't at first. My hands was getting so cramped, which is crazy, but I mean, it is what it is. All right, so finally I have made it to the top. Okay, so there you go, ladies, and that is how I take in my faja. Thank y'all for watching. See you in the next video.